Right then, let's do this thing. So, hello everybody. Welcome to the third ChatTalent webinar of 2018. I know we've got people from all over the world today, so good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whichever works best for you. It's great having you here. For those that don't know me, I'm Alan Walker, your host for today. I'm the editor of ChatTalent.com and also the co-founder of a talent consultancy business called the Talent Finders. But that's enough about me. Our speaker for today is Mike Basnett-Sandiford, Head of Partnerships for Jobs the Word. As well as having a mouthful of a name and a title, he also has over 15 years of experience of providing some great solutions into the HR, recruitment and talent world. Mike is going to talk to us today about how, through the power of data and AI, you can position yourself as strategically valuable to your organization. Or if you already are, how you can cement that position. He'll also be briefly showing you around a piece of technology that can help you achieve that in a less labor-intensive and less time-consuming manner than it would take if you were to do these things manually using a variety of different tools. If you've got any questions as we go along, the best way for these to be heard are by submitting them through the Q&A button, which on my screen is at the top. It might be at the bottom of yours, depending on your setup. Don't put them via the chat option. I'll lose them there. And we'll get through as many of those as we can. I'll field those and ask Mike the questions on your behalf. And we'll be doing our best as ever to wrap up bang on time. So that's enough for me.
I've lost the sound there, Alan. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, that's better. Yeah.
Perfect. Sorry about that. Yep. So you should be loud and clear. I can hear you. I think everybody else can hear you as well. So over to you.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the intro, Alan, and thanks everyone for taking the time out of, I'm sure, busy days to take the time to listen through. So let me just get my screen up and just go through now so you can see my desktop, and I'll just start the presentation. So as Alan sort of loosely touched on, so what we're going to talk about today is how can you use AI-powered data to demonstrate value in your organization? And I'm going to talk through some of the findings we've had from a recent white paper and also what we've discovered as talking to our clients that we work with. Alan's already given me a very nice and brief intro, and I've been in the industry for over 15 years and worked across a number of different platforms and different technologies. And actually what's really interested me during my time in the industry is how there's been a shift in different trends within the industry. We get lots of buzzwords and new things come to the market, and how the market adapts and actually can utilize some of these technologies within the marketplace. And what I'm really hoping from today is that, you know, if there's one thing you can take away that actually you feel could add or make an impact in your role, then that would be a great success, really. So today's chat, what are we going to talk about? So first of all, so how does AI-powered data, how can it drive recruitment by creating strategic thinking? What recruiters are looking for, the data tools that they need. How to use data to challenge your hiring managers and educate them in a real-time market. And how to use data to identify market trends and expectations of candidates and how to implement that across your team. So with some of what we've discussed, and as I just mentioned, it's based around a qualitative research piece that we ran across strategic talent advising, where we interviewed a range of senior recruitment professionals from across the industry. So that's where part of this information will be coming from. One of the things I want to touch on very, very briefly is the elephant in the room as AI, as I would say, because it's a big buzzword and it's used an awful lot, and a lot of people, you know, are asking what is it or if it exists. And actually, across the industry, it's believed that perhaps there's actually two stages of AI. So the first being narrow AI, and actually this is something perhaps that we would put ourselves in that box of, and in the context of how we would use it, it's artificial intelligence, which would be able to intelligently understand the skills that a person may have based within their profile. And then if you take the sort of the full true AI, if you like, is where a machine would understand how to drive a car. And naturally, I'm not going to be talking about that today. So whilst we talk about AI, it's actually the data it's enriching from our perspective that's what's really, really valuable. So I'll run through a live example of our platform, as Alan mentioned earlier. So what have we found from the research that we've been doing? So we've identified that two types of strategic recruiters out there, and I'll talk in depth, but we've got on the left-hand side here, the recruiter or resourcer, and it's about upgrading the operational recruitment function. And these are recruitment teams or professionals that focus on building trust within the hiring managers and executives while being marketplace experts. We've then got the STA, the Strategic Talent Advisor Leader, which is about upgrading their business function. So strategic advisors are moving away from being sort of the tactical firefighters to strategic business partners, making true data-driven decisions within the marketplace. And I'll talk
Mike,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Before we go too far, that white paper you talked about, can we distribute that to the audience after the call?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, anyone that would like anything from the white paper, we're happy to share those findings with you and or directly.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure. So on the 2 points we've just looked at, so I want to talk more about, so what does that actually mean? So operationally strategic. So what are these people? These are analyzing core supply data to inform decision making for recruiters and hiring managers for specific vacancies. So the type of information that's really important. So, talent pool identification, supply and demand analysis. Where's my audience? That's salary alignment. Are we paying the right money? The competitive demand for candidates. So who are we up against in the marketplace? And then the advert, job description and keyword analysis. All of this data from an operational perspective becomes really, really important and will be used by a number of teams, but it's how labor intensive and how much time is taken to actually really valuably use that information. And the idea is that this kind of information is building better relationships with management between hiring managers and executives in the market. And also you're seen as the market experts, and ideally it's going to drive better quality candidates. And then we have the strategic advisors. So the move from the reactive to proactive recruitment. So, brand assessment, it might seem a little bit strange, but actually looking from the outside in, where does my brand sit in the marketplace, and how can I use data and information to find that out? Critical skills analysis, how are we comparing for what we're asking in the marketplace? And actually, rather than being reactive, actually we're talking from a proactive perspective when the business is perhaps saying we're going to need to recruit 9 new Java developers, for example, and actually analysing the skills in the marketplace to ensure that they're aligned. The business planning, again, salary benchmarking, but at the stage of planning as opposed to the stage of firefighting. We can talk about gender balance and educational institution analysis. And all of this is leading into, again, better relationships, talent and recruitment teams being seen as the go-to experts, better quality decision-making as a business that ultimately will have a greater impact on how effective the recruitment teams can be. And recruitment is being seen as the business influencer. So again, some of the data from the white paper that we put together. So which tools do recruiters need to act more strategically? So from the sample survey that we went out to, 40% said talent discovery, 35% with ATS and pipeline builders. We've got a huge overwhelming 80% for candidate analytics, 10% on job boards, and 25% on social media. So the purpose of today really is to show that if candidate analytics is really important, how can that sort of influence you in the business? So talking about 6 highly critical data points needed for strategic functioning. Again, these are some of the bits pulled from the white paper. So candidate language and skill sets, combined total of 75% of people said it was either critically or highly important for them in the business to have this. And what do we mean by candidate language and skill sets? So how do we know what candidates are talking about in their profiles without physically going and looking at every single profile that's out there? What are people calling themselves within the marketplace? There's a lot of unconscious bias that we have within our own organizations that might suggest we call someone something, but another business may well call them something slightly different. But the skill set is exactly the same. So having the ability to have information to provide you the insights there. Supply and demand. What does the market look like? You know, we've been working with a client down in Ashford in Kent recently, and actually for them, you know, really shockingly being able to see how little supply there is, irrespective of demand, but how little supply there is in their local area. So how can they look at a holistic view of the UK and say, where are we going to take this talent from? And Alan and I have had a couple of chats actually, and I think, you know, supply is one thing, but it's not just about supply. We can have lots of candidates, but what about the demand for those people? Who else is trying to recruit them, and how can we actually understand what that makeup looks like in terms of what our recruitment success is going to be like? Competitor intelligence. 70% of people saying, you know, critically are highly important. You know, where is my audience? Where, if I'm going to have to headhunt these people, where am I going to be taking them from? Who are we competing with? Where might, in fact, actually, where might we lose people to? So we can understand in our particular area that we're recruiting, or where one of our offices might be, you know, who else is there, and where are people currently working? Metrics and insights across a range of things, but you'll see a couple of screen grabs here on the right hand side and pulled from Horsefly, which I'll run a really brief demo on at the end. But you know, what can we see from the metrics? So actually, it's not just about supply and demand and you know, the competitor intelligence, but how many people are there? What do the candidate numbers look like in my area? How can I understand what the salary ranges are for the jobs that I'm recruiting? How can I see how many job adverts are being recruited? So there's a range of different metrics and insights that you can start using. And again, 60% of people said it was either highly or critically important for them. Gender and experience. You know, most of the events that we've either been to speak at or presented at and listened to other people talking in the industry, you know, we get gender being raised, you know, pretty much in every occasion. So whether that's perhaps women in STEM, whether that's the gender diversity at senior level management, this type of information and being able to understand how you match against the market can be really, really important in terms of managing, you know, business expectations, you know, experience levels of people. You know, how can we see what skills are coming into the marketplace? Can we see if there's actually shortages of people coming into the market that we know we might need to recruit in the next 4 to 5 years? And that might seem like quite forward thinking and planning, but actually, you know, this whole experience level will also dictate the types of salaries that you're going to be expected to be paying within the market. And then lastly, the 6 sort of critical data points that we've highlighted was graduation data. So, you know, how can I understand if I am looking at early careers or I am looking at graduate programs, or actually if I want to understand again where people are going to university and ending up with us in perhaps, you know, 3 years' time, I can actually, you know, look at this kind of data and see where I might want to set partnerships up, early careers teams, go into the career stages at the universities, as opposed to perhaps just graduate recruitment fairs, just as one example.
I really like this part, Mike, particularly the supply and demand piece. When I was with Pearson, we used to have a very basic version of supplying that information to our hiring managers. So we didn't have any fancy tools at that time. So we'd use LinkedIn. We'd do a fairly rigorous search for as many candidates that matched a certain profile within the right location, etc., and right level. And likewise, we'd then go away and do another search to see who else was hiring and how many people were hiring and what volumes they were hiring, to then go and present that to hiring managers and say, look, are you making the right decision to try and hire this person in this particular location, or are there better places to hire? And sometimes I'd get really excited because it would appear that in a particular location, supply was really high. And they're like, look, there's tens of thousands of these people here, but demand was high as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a really high chance of hiring somebody in that particular location. And then on the flip side, you find somewhere where the supply is lower, but actually the demand as a percentage of that supply is also way much lower. So if you're going into that market and you are a employer that people want to work for, and maybe you're the only employer in that particular market that people will want to work for, it might be a better decision to go there rather than the more traditional locations.
No, I completely agree, and I think you and I have both discussed that. I think a lot of it can come down to sort of bandwidth and time within the recruitment teams, and I completely appreciate that it quite often is a very time poor metric, and I think we'll show you, because yes, you can go and get data. There's lots and lots of data out there, but it's how much time it takes you to actually collect that, to be able to present it back to the business. And actually, on that, what were some of the challenges that 85% of respondents talked about? So, one of them was access to data. It is out there if you look hard enough, but also demonstrating ROI. Top-down support from the business, actually being supported to go and actually get this information and be able to present it to management teams, and time, as you've just probably alluded to, how you would go about doing something in the past, and what were the proposed solutions to follow up with their challenges. So within talent analytics, better planning and decision making for critical skills and recruitment, more targeted marketing, keywords, salary, location, identifying risks and alternative strategies, desktop metrics and insights, so quality-driven decisions. So this is, being able to demonstrate this ROI. There's less purchased reports and ad hoc surveys and perhaps some salary benchmarking that's been purchased from somewhere, and you're able to provide strategic, actionable insights throughout all stages of business development. And, the hiring manager and executive buy-in, aligned expectations. I think, it's probably one of the big things out there, and I work across RPOs and corporate clients directly, and aligning that expectation with what is in the marketplace and, what you're trying to recruit, can be a huge cost and time saver. But quality-driven decisions, better understanding of recruitment challenges, a better understanding of the strength of your brand in the marketplace. And, these are sort of all the findings, again, from sort of partially from in the white paper and also from the clients that we've worked with over the last sort of 18 months, with our Horsefly Analytics platform. And, on that, that's kind of our sort of intro to the data. And I suppose it leads quite nicely into Horsefly, our talent analytics platform, because actually the one of the reasons that we built this was we started gathering information from the clients we worked with that had a need for the type of data that we've been seeing now from building white papers, and gaining more insights from across the marketplace. But what I want to show you is actually what Horsefly can do, and how that might be able to support some of the things you do. So from this part of the sort of the talk really is, I want to try and sort of ask that question of how could this data potentially help you? So I'm doing a very, very basic search. What Alan will probably fill you in on a bit more at the end is that I'm more than happy to do something for anyone that's got perhaps a specific challenge or would like to see the data around something that's perhaps relevant for them. I'm happy to do so. But I'm going to run a search. I've typed in solutions architect, and actually there's some other terms that I could perhaps put in, perhaps solution architect as well. I can build some very, very complex searches, and to talk around, I could put in a location. I could filter, and actually whether I want to look at male and female candidates. I might want to look at people that have only got 8+ years experience in the market. So I could do a number of different searches there, and I could, if I really wanted to, build in pre-built Boolean as it is within here, some other terms that I might be looking for. But we're in a live situation, so please bear with any potential swirly circles that may well decide to haunt me during this. But so you will have seen a couple of bits of this data that we've been talking about to try and bring to life what we discussed during the sort of the presentation there. So what I can see here is, candidate insights. How many candidates are across the UK? How many people are advertising across the UK right now? What's the salary range for solution architects across the UK from an average perspective, from those entry-level people to your really senior level people? How does that change actually right the way across the UK? I can see in London, actually, for a top-end solutions architect, I could well be looking at 95K. I've got a heat map here, and Alan touched on a really, really good point. This initial heat map is talking about candidate density. So I can see that the highest density of candidates is in London and the South East, and the lowest density of candidates is up in the North East or Wales or Northern Ireland. I can drill into some of these different areas. So I can actually click in and say, well, actually, I've got an overview. Perhaps I'd like to recruit someone in the South East. And I can see my hotspots of where those people are. And actually, we then flip the whole sort of hotspot, if you like, to say, well, actually, how difficult is it on supply and demand? So again, we can see in Reading, 786 candidates and only 8 jobs. So actually, potentially it could be a good area to go and recruit. But we can be very, very specific around this type of information, drilling into towns and seeing candidate insights for the towns, who's actually recruiting. I can click into the adverts and see actually who we're up against and actually how are they writing their adverts. So I could actually click into that and sort of look at the language that my competitors are using to talk about their jobs that they've got.
Just while that loads up, Mike, and Rob's asked a question that I was going to ask as well, Rob Shevlin. Where does this data come from?
Yeah, so the data is pulled from thousands of online data points. So we've essentially been, for the last 5.5, 6 years, been pulling publicly available information. And we've amassed a global data set of candidate information of over 270 million profiles. So, it will be taken from places like the places that everyone knows, your Twitter, your Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, Stack Exchange, GitHub, blogs, forums, university sites. So anywhere that we leave publicly available information or a digital footprint, we're gathering that information, structuring it, cleansing it, and then, machine learning is helping sort of structure and learn about the skills that these people have got, and AI is actually really enriching this data further.
What about the salary ranges? Are they coming from the job adverts you're seeing in terms of what other people are advertising roles at, or is that coming from other sources?
It's a good question, and actually it comes from sort of 3 data points that we use for our salary. So one being the job adverts which are being advertised, which are refreshed daily. So we hold job adverts for a period of 3 months and we expire them to give you always the last quarter snapshot, if you like, of jobs being advertised. The second data point, we'll use the likes of AI and technology to dig into Glassdoor and places like that. And we've also salary surveyed 1.8 million people within our data set to talk about what their current salaries are. So this is a blended approach that you will see here.
Okay. One other question. Data's very front and centre for people at the moment, and Chris Turner's just asked the other question I was going to ask you. Well, Chris, how is this data going to be affected by GDPR?
So actually, we're not affected by GDPR because the data is fully anonymized. So we're not sharing any kind of candidate information about the people that are there. This is purely around market intelligence as opposed to a sourcing tool whereby you're seeing actual candidate names and you're saying, well, I want to go and talk to that person. So actually, we're absolutely GDPR compliant.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
So to touch on this, and again, I don't want to talk for too long and I don't want to do the full overview of it, but I just wanted to bring to life what this can show. And this particular graph that you're looking at here, we've got 3 points of data. The green line is showing from 0 to 80,000, the average salary across the UK and the different regions. The blue line here shows the total number of candidates. And the black line is where actually Alan hit the nail on the head, that supply and demand, it's not about the number of candidates, but how many candidates are there available for every job being advertised. So unconscious bias, London, lots of candidates, but guess what? There's less than 8 candidates, probably around about 7 candidates available for every job that's being advertised at the present moment in time. And guess what? We know these people are passive. So actually we've got the highest salary of anywhere in the UK, average of 68,000 nearly. We've got highest demand for these people. So actually, if I am a client and I'm perhaps looking at saying, well, you know what, we can't afford to pay that and we might need to look somewhere else. And as you said, Alan, the East Midlands, there's less candidates, but guess what? There's over 24, 25 candidates available for every job being advertised. And the salary's, nearly £10,000 less than what is being asked for in London. So how can I use this intelligence, and how does that help you understand actually that there's different routes to try and get these people to come and work for you? And again, we've got their experience breakdown, we've got the gender breakdown we talked about. How can we look at the job titles that these people are using? What are the most popular job titles? And actually, could we really look at some of the other ones out there? So actually, it could be a technical architect, project manager, or senior solutions architect, or an analyst, or an enterprise architect. These are some of the other job titles. Where are these people working across the UK? IBM, Lloyds Banking Group, Fujitsu, Capgemini, Vodafone, Accenture. These are your top employers. Now, okay, I'm looking at this from a complete overview of the UK, because I wanted to show you how that works. And with all of this information, we've got university data there, we've got keywords. I can export this to a PDF, and it will give me all of this information, my search criteria, all of the breakdown of the different regions of supply and demand. And actually, I can download this onto my desktop to be able to instantly go and share with anyone within the business around particular things that we're doing. But again, that's a UK-based overview. If I really wanted to, let's just perhaps do another example. If I just click into the Northwest, and I want to actually see in Stockport, for example, and I want to look at the candidate insights in Stockport, I can go and actually see exactly where these people are currently working. And I can see that there are AstraZeneca, Barclays, etc. So the idea with Horsefly is there to help you strategically be able to build complex understandings of the market in a very, very quick time, to be able to help you think more strategically and build better relationships across the business. So hopefully I'm well within time. I didn't want to talk for too long. If there's any questions, Alan, I know you're fielding those. I'm happy to answer any.
Perfect. No, I think that was great, Mike. Thank you. And just be clear to everybody, this wasn't all about demoing Horsefly. It's about inspiring you guys to understand the type of information that you can put your hands on. Of course, there's other ways of gathering the information, much more manually or via a supplier or a research company, which can often be very expensive, and you have to be quite choosy about which roles you decide to go out and gather the data for. You wouldn't need to with something like Horsefly. But either way, if you provide your businesses or clients with that type of insight that Mike has showcased here, you'll be going a long way, I feel, towards building a reputation as a team that is strategically important and strategically valuable. So as Mike said, opening up to any questions from the group. Has anybody got any questions for Mike or for me? If you have, pop them in the Q&A box. Tell you what, while we're waiting, Mike, do me a search.
Okay.
People who work in human resources, recruitment, or talent in the UK.
Do we want talent acquisition?
Talent, it's kind of the broader brush, really, but talent acquisition probably is relevant as well. You'd probably include that in a proper search.
Okay. And any particular location? Do you want me to test it on a specific location? Or
no, let's go UK-wide, please.
So again, I can expand out on those searches, Alan. So I can, the artificial intelligence that we've got, and obviously the machine learning, will actually make suggestions for you to say, actually, you put in human resources, but you put recruitment. Could these also be, another term? What you can instantly see: 425,000 people, 359,000 different job adverts.
Wow. No, that's really interesting. I'm being completely selfish there. I'm thinking about our ChatTalent audience and the potential audience that we can build just here in the UK, never mind globally. And that's quite interesting as a number. in terms of where we can head with that. So that's really interesting. So if we haven't got any questions or anything else, that's absolutely fine. People can have some of their time back. I'll be following up after the call with a recording of what we've seen. I'll also be sending out the white paper that Mike spoke about. Mike has offered up to any of you, if you've attended this call and you want Mike to do a one-off search for you and provide you with some data, he's more than happy to do that. He can't keep doing it; it'll be a one-off, but it'll give you an idea of the power of Horsefly, but also the kind of information that you can provide out to your businesses. We've just had another question in actually from Rob Shevlin. Rob's on it today. Lots of questions from him. Are the data sources live, Mike, and are they updated in real time?
Yes, so with all of the data that we're showing, we refresh our full, I suppose, true big data start, 270 million candidate profiles. They're refreshed every 10 to 15 days. So it's always real-time data that you're looking at.
And for that size of that data set, that 10 to 15 days is sufficient, isn't it? Nothing changes that much in the space of 15 days because of the volume of the data that you're looking at.
Yeah, and I think lots of people do change jobs, but you don't see sort of drastic changes. But I think it's always sort of quite important to sort of look at new technologies, new skills, where people are based, and actually different things that they're putting within their profiles.
Excellent. Right, we don't seem to have any more questions coming through. So firstly, thank you to everybody who turned up today. Really appreciated. Thank you, Mike, for kind of opening my eyes to what's possible in terms of the end result. So what can you provide to your business to position yourself as a truly strategic advisor and strategically valuable. But thank you also for the quick tour around Horsefly and seeing a much easier way of doing things and some of the methods that I used to use when I led TA teams. It's really appreciated.
Yeah, no, thanks very much for your time, and thank you everyone for listening again. Please do feel free to get in touch if you'd like some more on the white paper or some further sort of specific insights.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.